Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
You see the unemployment rate? Does anybody care what it is? The unemployment rate is as low as it has been since I was 18 years old, 1969. 3.7%. We haven't seen that. I mean, seriously, folks, this is 18 years old I was, 1969. The story's being ignored, just as another pretty big story is being ignored, but we'll tell you about it.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday!
And here we are, revved and ready to go to wrap up another busy broadcast week from the famed, distinguished, respected, admired Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Studies. 800-282-2882 and the email address lrushpo@eibnet.us. There's a really important story out there that is not being covered. It's not being covered on even Fox News or Fox Business News. It is a story of massive witness tampering. It is a story about a witness, Leland Kaiser, one of the reportedly best friends of Dr. Ballsy Ford. Leland Kaiser says that she was bullied by another friend of Ford's and a former FBI agent herself, Monica McLean. She was bullied, she was told, she was asked to change her story and say that she was in the room with Ballsy Ford when Kavanaugh, she was at the event when Kavanaugh supposedly did the dirty against Dr. Ford. She has maintained from the get-go that she doesn't know what Dr. Ford's talking about. She wasn't there. None of the four witnesses that Dr. Ford says were there say they were. Monica McLean, a former FBI agent and former friend of Ballsy Ford, and it was at McLean's house in Delaware where Ballsy Ford wrote the letter to Feinstein. Did you know that? Yes, Ballsy Ford was in Delaware with Monica McLean, and some are suggesting, I don't know if it's true, that actually Monica McLean might have written the letter. But at least that there was a collaboration, a letter that was sent to Feinstein. You would think this story would be all over the place. You would think that it would have been mentioned on the Senate floor today when they took the procedural vote, which, by the way, was 51-49 Kavanaugh. I don't think there were any surprises. A lot of people thought that Murkowski was going to vote to confirm. I never did. I never did. I thought Murkowski was always going to stake out this position. And then I saw a story that some 300 female lawyers from Alaska have been leaning on Murkowski. So she voted no and said that Kavanaugh is not the right man at the right time to be on the court. But this is a pretty big story that Ballsy Ford's FBI friend Monica McLean was pressuring Leland Kaiser to modify her testimony and statement so as to say that you know what? I just remembered. I was there. I remembered that Kavanaugh was. I remembered. That's what they wanted her to do. You thought it was kind of dubious. You thought it might have been a little sketchy that Ballsy Ford's best friend is a retired FBI agent. We mentioned this to you earlier this week. A former DOJ official may have ties to the FBI's attempt to run that coup on Trump. Her name is Monica McLean again. And they were together on July 30th, when Ford was writing the letter to Feinstein. They were in Delaware at McLean's house. And Leland Kaiser is an ex-wife of Bob Beckel, a former Democrat political operative, Fox News commentator, and CNN commentator. They wanted her, they pressured her to revisit her statement. The Wall Street Journal had the story, or has the story today. This is witness tampering. This is asking a witness to lie. so as to buttress the story told by Dr. Ballsy Ford. And the pressure came from a former FBI agent again, who's one of the beach buddies of Dr. Ford's. If this isn't witness tampering, then somebody needs to tell me what it is. Charles Grassley was on Fox. But Grassley, as I mentioned at the end of yesterday's program, Grassley has been on fire. Something has really set him off. I would think that it would have happened years and years and years ago, but whatever, something has really set him off now. He's going after the press, accusing them face to face of outright bias. He's accusing the Democrats of being insincere, doing great harm to the Senate. One of Grassley's points is, and John Cornyn too, if we're going to get rid of somebody on the basis of an allegation with no proof, what are we doing for every future nominee that comes before this committee? If the new standard is that all a nominee has to be is accused of something and that kills the nomination, then where are we headed? We're headed exactly where the Democrats want. Just to refresh your memory, Ballsy Ford and Leland Kaiser were close. I mean, some say best friends at the time of the alleged attack by Kavanaugh. When Kaiser's denial was brought up during the hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Ballsy Ford attempted to discredit her by saying that, well, she's got health problems. She had problems. I don't know, but she was not well. I felt really bad for her. Turns out that Leland Kaiser is a former pro golfer. She does have back and neck problems, but not mental health issues. Monica McClain, again, Ballsy Ford's lifelong best friend, and the woman Ballsy Ford allegedly coached prior to taking a polygraph test. This Monica McClain is all over this story. We've only learned her name in the past week or so. And according to reports, Monica McClain was at Ballsy Ford's side in the hearing room before she testified. She was. I have now seen photos. Anyway, Grassley said on Fox and Friends this morning that there is evidence in the FBI report that other witnesses were leaned on by allies of Ballsy Ford as well, not just Leland Kaiser. Other witnesses were leaned on. That means every senator has seen that. Every senator that's read the report has seen this. And it apparently isn't changing any votes. So the vote was 51-49. Manchin, Flake, and Collins all voting yes. But the final vote cannot happen by Senate rule before 4:42 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. It has to be 30 hours after this vote was taken. Now, I want to say I'm not surprised by Murkowski, who voted no. A lot of people are asking, is the vote now not going to change? I mean, if the cloture vote and we got the procedural vote, 51-49. No, folks, because I'm going to tell you what's happening out there. I have been made privy to some of the comments, not just on social media, but to the offices that many Republican senators are getting. They are being deluged. Their entire families are being threatened. Their grandchildren are being threatened. Their wives, their husbands, barmaids, everybody they know being threatened. It's enormous. It is never ending. The phones don't stop ringing. The threatening emails and tweets do not stop arriving. It is unhinged. It is vile, and it is evil. And it's not just Flake and Collins and Manchin. It's all the Republicans are hearing. It is one of the most disgusting things many of these people say they've ever seen. In that regard, Jeff Flake and Susan Collins, I think they have to be credited for doing the right thing. They are both facing enormous pressures. Flake is getting pressure like you can't believe from not only members of the paid professional mob squad on the left, but other Democrats. in the Senate and on the Judiciary Committee. And I don't think, for as far as Flake is concerned, he voted today for Kavanaugh. It's not technically a vote for Kavanaugh. It's a vote to go to a final vote. And the rule of thumb always is that as these procedural votes go, so goes the final vote. But you can't make book on that simply because of the abject, real, frightening threats these people are getting. And I think the vote for Flake today was really hard. I'll tell you why. He went from being a yes vote to being harassed on the elevator to becoming a yes vote with the FBI investigation. He got what he wanted. They're still leaning on him. He's leaving the Senate. This is his final term. The easy thing to do here would be to vote against Kavanaugh and receive the praise of the mob and receive the praise of the Democrats. And he went ahead and he voted in what many of us think is the right way. He did the right thing. He's going to be attacked viciously. He is going to be accosted by the left all the way through the rest of the day, tonight and tomorrow. The same thing with Susan Collins, a senator from Maine. I can't describe for you. You might have an idea. You probably know the things that are being said to these people, the threats that they are getting, belie the notion that we live in a civilized society. It's unhinged. Much of it is insane and deranged and is made up of the psychological disorders that I believe constitute now the mainstream of the Democrat Party. The protesters are paid. Their signs are all identically manufactured and the same phrases all over them. And these people, I don't know if you've received threats, and I don't know if you've been barraged by them. But if you haven't, if you believe them, they can unnerve you. And yet Flake and Collins did the right thing here. I only hope that they're able to maintain their positions. Now, Collins has announced that she's going to make a statement after 3 o'clock today. And, of course, everybody's on pins and needles wondering what that's going to be. Now, the thinking on this goes that there's no way she would vote yes on the procedural vote this morning if her intention is to vote no down the road. If you're going to kill the nomination, do it now, not tomorrow. I don't think any of these theories or traditions can be hoisted up and used and relied on. I think we're in brand new territory here for a number of reasons. I don't think you can say that just because Susan Collins voted yes this morning means a guarantee she's going to vote yes tomorrow. And then why make a statement at 3 o'clock? Why 3 o'clock? And why make some statement? You know, I try to keep my ego out of this as much as I can, but I'm telling you, when I see somebody who's going to make a statement at 3 o'clock, first thing I realize is I'm not going to be here to comment on it. And I wonder if I'm the only one that notices that, or if the person making the statement might. It's a curious thing. It could just well be that she wants a lot of attention for what she is going to say. But as of right now, they've both been. I'm not sucking up, Snerdley. Snerdley's accusing me of sucking up. I'm not. I know the kind of threats these people are getting. Susan Collins, in fact, I'll tell you this. Susan Collins has been assured by people that if she votes no, she can forget ever being reelected to the Senate from Maine by the Republican Party there. She's also being told that if she votes yes, that all kinds of horrible, despicable things are going to happen. Flake is being told this. They all are. But Collins and Flake and Joe Manchin on the Democrat side, Joe Manchin voted yes. Democrat West Virginia, he's getting a load of it as well. So it could well come down. You know, there's Senator Daines' daughter in Montana. His daughter is scheduled to get married tomorrow, and he said, you know what, I'm going to the wedding. This only happens once. I'm going to the wedding. Donald Trump Jr. said, I've got total faith. Daines is the greatest guy. If they need his vote, he'll be there. Well, they're going to need his vote, so they got a plane standing by. They're going to maybe, somebody said, why don't you do the wedding in the Senate anteroom and have the reception in statutory, whatever it is, hall. But he will get there. He will vote. And it could well be that they're going to have to send Pence up there for final passage here to make this happen. I hope it doesn't eventuate that way. But there are a lot of people here that are doing the right thing, and they're behaving, acting courageously, and because of that, they are in the line of fire. Euphemistically speaking, that the left has set up for everybody. Collins and Flake have both tried to be accommodating and reasonable. The other side is not. They're vicious and they're vile. They are despicable. They are mean. And it's the same thing happening to Senator Flake. So, make a brief timeout. We will continue here. Your phone calls as well. It's Open Line Friday, which means that you can talk about pretty much anything you want. There are other things happening, as is the case each and every day, other things outside the primary news event of the day, which, of course, is the Senate vote on Kavanaugh. So be patient. We'll be right back and continue. Senator Flake just announced he's going to vote for the confirmation of Kavanaugh unless something big changes. Well, we don't know what the something big changing could be. It could be anything. This is why I think he deserves a little praise here for doing the right thing when in his world, people that matter to him, a lot of them are just up in arms over this, and he's standing up and doing the right thing here. So I want to play an audio soundbite for you, and this is to give you an idea of what's happening to Flake, and it's happening to all of them. Remember that elevator confrontation where these two women in a CNN camera just ran into the elevator and ambushed the guy, started shouting, and it looked like it totally unnerved him? Well, the woman, and it was portrayed by CNN as just a couple of citizens that happened to be walking through the Senate. They saw Flake and they got livid and they tracked him down and they went in the elevator, and average citizens are livid. They weren't average citizens, they're part of the paid mob. And one of the babes involved admits it this morning on CNN. This is Anna Maria Archila. Question, where is the disconnect in the conversation these days?
In order to have a healthy democracy, it is essential for our political leaders to connect with us, to look at us, to not look away, to listen to our stories. I feel very encouraged that actually people across the country are doing precisely that. We're overcoming some of our fears, doing things for the first time. Maria, who was there in that elevator with me, had never talked to an elected official. We spent 15 or 20 minutes before we saw Flake talking about how do you do that? And what I said to her was, just tell him why you're here.
Right, so you see they're sitting outside planning. There's a little coaching going on. Anna Maria Archila is the co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy, which is a Soros-Hillary Clinton front group. But the point is, they're not average, ordinary citizens outraged by what's going on. They're political activists, but the press portrays these people as just outraged Americans, women outraged at the status of male dominance in America, and they forced their way in there courageously. And it's not all. He was ambushed by a political mob. Over the course of the many recent months, I have made the point that one of the objectives of the modern American left is to transform America away from its intentions and its designs as founded. And in many ways, this was one of the agenda objectives of the Obama administration, although to do it in a stealth way. And Obama couldn't come out and say, beyond that his policies were transformative, he couldn't define what that meant. There would have been a revolt, and he wouldn't have been elected had he been honest about what transforming America meant. So what he claimed it meant was taking on issues like climate change and health care for everybody and all this, transform America. But what they really want to do is transform America away from our unique founding. convert it to a socialist democracy. Some of the radicals even want to go further and have this country become totally communist. In fact, look, there's a poll out here today. This is from the Daily Caller. The poll is BuzzFeed News. 31% of millennials identify as democratic socialist, according to a study that has been taken. You'd like to not believe this, but the facts on the ground, just what you see, even though it may be anecdotal evidence, indicates that a lot of them have fallen for this. Millennial men were far more likely to identify as some kind of socialist than women, a total of 40% responding affirmatively to the question. Now, how in the hell can that be? Because there's one thing, something just doesn't jive with socialism. You know what it is? Self-reliance. Self-reliance, taking yourself seriously, standing up for yourself, believing in yourself, relying on yourself. Being a man just does not jive with socialism. Socialism does not work well with self-reliant people. Socialism and communism attempt to erase self-reliant people. Self-reliant people, people that do not depend on anybody but themselves, their immediate circle, are huge threats to socialists and communists. So how in the hell has this happened? How is it 40% of millennial men have become socialists, more than women? It ought to be the exact opposite. Well, hello, modern era feminism, which has had as one of its targets the demasculinization of men. And they've been very open and honest about that. They've even conjured up terms for it. Toxic masculinity. Dangerous masculinity. They are doing their best to erase natural male characteristics from as many young guys as they can. And since guys want to pal around with women, whatever women want is what men end up doing, on balance. I mean, you have individual exceptions, of course. You got Clint Eastwoods or you've got James Caans that tell everybody to go to hell when they're told how to live and how to act. But on balance, men do what women want them to do. If a big book is famous and hot and women dig it, men are going to go say they're reading it or try to become conversant in it. Just the nature of things. And so they're being highly, highly successful and targeting America and its founding. It's not just targeting capitalism, it's targeting the concepts of individual liberty and freedom and targeting the concept that government is the institution that needs to be limited most in a representative republic. The de-emphasis of government, the getting government out of people's lives, just the exact opposite with communists and socialists. So I have an evidence piece here. I'm not just flapping my gums. There's a New Yorker story by Michael Lista, a guy. Published yesterday. The Tears of Brett Kavanaugh is its title. It is a horrible piece. And it does exactly that which I have been warning people. It goes all the way back to the founding of America to trash white men. Oh, that reminds me. Hang on here. You need to grab an audio soundbite here. It's 6 and 7. Pull quote. Kavanaugh has no avenue of appeal, though, except his own hurt feelings. He's in touch with them, as he was taught to be, and so he's seemingly weaponized crying, the way a little boy does when he's in trouble. Another pull quote. But Kavanaugh's performance last Thursday was something entirely different, distinctly contemporary. It combined the post-war attitude that men should be in touch with their feelings to the point that they may cry, with the intrinsic American ideal of white male privilege. Because Kavanaugh is accused of sexual assault and may be denied the career elevation he has long plotted, he blubbered like a newborn. He has plotted his career, you see. He hasn't had a series of goals and achieved them. Oh, no. The guy is a dangerous schemer. he has plotted to get on the Supreme Court, where he can rule against minorities and women and Latinos and Hispanics and gays and lesbians and transgenders. Don't you know? This has been the lifelong plotting strategy of Brett Kavanaugh. And when there was the least bit resistance placed in his way, he reduced to tears, started crying. And then this pull quote. Kavanaugh's tears made a kind of sense. From a single phrase by Thomas Jefferson, that public life is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the fulfillment of the white American man's atomized desires assumed the force of a fiat and became the ultimate purpose of this country's society. If a white man didn't get what he wanted, it was nothing short of a constitutional crisis. This is what this clown saw in the Kavanaugh hearings. But you'll note the references here. A single phrase by Thomas Jefferson, that public life is about life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. The fulfillment of the white American man's desires assumed the force of a fiat, meaning an automatic, and became the ultimate purpose of this country's society. If a white man didn't get what he wanted, it was nothing short of a constitutional crisis. Bingo. These people prove me right each and every time I go analyzing them. So the trouble with America is that it was established by white men, for white men, and the pursuit of happiness and life and liberty was only intended for white men, and if any white man was obstructed in the pursuit, then there was something wrong with America. Do not minimize this. I'm telling you, this belief is animating the last two generations, informing the last two generations of kids going to high school and college. This is the kind of drivel that they are being taught. That America is corrupt from its founding days, that it was founded for an exclusive group of people, white men, nobody else need apply. And when they don't get their way, in other words, when minorities start taking over, Latinos, lesbians, gays, transgenders, you name it, when those people start taking over, that's justice. When white men have their lunch handed to them and have to listen to what their pursuit of happiness has meant for everybody else. Misery, death, destruction, discrimination. This is what this sick bunch of people believe. Go to the audio sound bites. More documentation. Last night, CNN Tonight with Don Lemon, talking about the protests against the Kavanaugh nomination and your beloved host, me.
There's a not at all subtle undercurrent to all of this. This is not just an attack on conservatives. It's an attack on white men. Rush Limbaugh, come on down.
These women are angry. Something has happened to them in their lives. And their rage and anger, they take it out now on the country or on all men, or men in the powerful majority, which are white Christian men and so forth.
He said it. So don't get mad at me and say, oh, well, Don Lemon, everything's about race. Rather than searching for the truth, the president and his party, they're appealing to their base. People who feel victimized, who fear the world is passing them by. Fear. People who see all of this as a zero-sum game. If women or people of color or LGBT people advance, it must be at someone else's expense.
No, Don, that's what you people are doing. I'm merely chronicling what's happening out there. It is undeniable. I just shared with you one of the countless examples I could cite, this guy Michael Lista in the New Yorker, suggesting that Kavanaugh's crying because he's a white man targeted, singled out for advancement in America by other white men, and when it's not going his way, he breaks down and cries. This piece justifies the attack on white men. It says it's about time. The whole country and the assault on the whole country is validated because it's actually an assault on a white male majority, which has caused tyranny and sadness and misery and death and destruction for everybody else. All I said was, women are angry. Me Too movement. Women are angry. Something's happened to them. Their rage and anger they take out now on the country, the majority of which white Christian men, that's the target. You can't deny that white Christian men, or just white men, period, are the target of modern feminism, of modern American liberalism, and the American left. Somehow, Don Lemon converts this into a racial issue. It isn't race. We're talking about the structure of America as founded and what's to become of it. And the justification the left sees for getting rid of it and transforming it. He wants everything to be about race. There was no racial component in my comment at all. I'm simply identifying the targets today of the American left. Let me take a brief time out, see how easy it is for me to make my case here. They help me. They make my case for me. All I have to do is read to you what they say or play audio of what they say. Back in a second. No, folks, don't misunderstand me here. I know Mr. Snerdley is worried about Susan Collins. He's saying, why call an announcement? Why make an announcement at 3:00? You voted yes to continue the process. You voted yes on the procedural vote. There can be only one reason to call a 3:00 announcement, is to say you're going to vote no after suggesting the process should go forward. You don't want to shut down the process. I realize a lot of people think that that's what's in store here. And, of course, I'm hearing, I knew this was going to happen, I'm hearing from droves of you who say the proof is the timing. That she's going to do this after this program ends means Russia. It can't be anything you're going to like. I'm getting emails that say that. You think that's right, too? Snerdley says absolutely thinks that's right as well. Well, we'll see. I'm not going to withdraw my acknowledgement that I think she did the right thing. But I am going to get to the phones because I've gone too many first hours this week without getting to the phones. That changes today, especially being Open Line Friday. So we'll go to Pleasanton, California first with Chris. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Rush. Good to talk with you. This Monica McLean, who you were just speaking of, the person that contacted Miss Kaiser and trying to get her to possibly change her testimony.
Yes.
She's the same person that the boyfriend of Dr. Ford mentioned in the letter he sent in, talking about how there was coaching going on by Dr. Ford on trying to get somebody to handle a polygraph.
Yeah, that's another story, by the way. The boyfriend's letter has yet to be reported in mainstream media, nor has the story of Monica McLean pressuring Leland Kaiser to change her testimony. Those two stories have not been reported. ABC, CBS, NBC, Washington Post, New York Times, Associated Press. People have not heard either of those.
And there's other things, like, for example, Dr. Ford mentioned in her in the testimony she gave, she mentioned Rehoboth, Delaware, was where she was at, and that's the last known address of this Monica McLean.
Correct. Yes. So absolutely. When they wrote the letter, when Ballsy Ford wrote the letter, that's where she was. She was in Rehoboth, Delaware, with McLean. Yes.
So here's my question: There's an emerging picture that there might be a lot going on, but beyond the scenes here that hasn't come out yet. I'm wondering if the Democrats, oddly enough, are not better off holding this vote now before more of this comes out. It looks like it's going to go through, and at the last minute, one of the people that's saying they're going to vote changes it, so suddenly it goes down, and then because all this is about to come out.
No, it's not about to come out. That's the whole point. You know it, but it's not going to come out. It hasn't come out yet. It's not going to come out. Now, one thing, it has the Leland Kaiser pressure to change her testimony. That is in the FBI report. The Democrats have seen that. Grassley referenced it, and Grassley said there's a lot more. There are many more examples of Ballsy Ford witnesses being pressured to change their testimony. The Democrats have seen all that. It doesn't change it. It's not going to change anything. This is not about the evidence. It never has been about the evidence. And if those two stories miraculously made the front page of the New York Times website in 5 minutes. And if ABC, CBS, NBC began to report all this, if it wouldn't change one Democrat Senate vote. Democrats can't delay the vote anyway. That's up to McConnell, the turtle.
Well, the question is, why wouldn't the Republicans make a greater effort for it to come out?
Why would it make a greater effort to... it's in the FBI report. The Republicans are thinking Democrats can see it. It's the Monica McClain aspect is in the FBI report. They discovered it.
Yeah, but to my knowledge, none of the Senator Grassley and so forth are not mentioning what we were just talking about in this conversation.
No, they're not. I can't tell you why they're not mentioning it.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
I'm wondering myself.
Your questions are entirely legitimate, and they're rooted in pure common sense. You're sitting there thinking, if the world knew this, it would change everything. It shows that the ballsy Ford side is willing to commit perjury, suborn perjury, pressure witnesses to change their stories, which then could be said to conclude that there's not anything that ballsy Ford is saying that's reliable. But those two stories have not been seen by the American public at large. They've not shown up at Yahoo News, the Associated Press, New York Times, CBS, NBC, CNN, and they won't. For the exact reason. The stories are being suppressed. But the Democrats in the Senate know it. Doesn't matter. It's about the seriousness of the charge. It's not about the nature of the evidence. It never is. I know it's frustrating, folks. You see a big news story and you think that everybody else is going to see it. But not these two. The fact that McClain pressuring Kaiser change your story, it's not widely reported on purpose. Doing what I was born to do and being right where I'm supposed to be. Rush Limbaugh. I've been doing this a long time, and I intend to keep on doing it.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday!
Yes, sir, Bob. Drama on the Senate floor today. Drama that not even Hollywood could have created. Something very unusual happened on the Senate floor today. Every senator was there. Usually on these votes, vote electronically, come in and out, vote, leave, they all were there. It looked like half the place was empty when the vote started, but then the Democrats began to file in. Happy to have you along here, folks. 800-282-2882 if you want to be with us today. The email address is lrushbo@eibnet.us. I share with you a little story here. It's about something that happened on PMS NBC today. Let's see, what did I just put it at the bottom of the stack? It's about somebody I very rarely comment on because I don't care. It's phony, faux conservative. His name is Jennifer Rubin. Here it is. Jennifer Rubin. It's amazing the transformation this woman has made. The Washington Post hired her as a conservative blogger during the Obama years. During the Obama years, for the most part, she came across as a conservative blogger. Then when Trump gets elected, she became, I think, what she's always been, just a dyed-cast in the wool liberal. And now she has still the conservative columnist or blogger at the Post, but she's not conservative, and MSNBC refers to her that way. But that's not the point. I couldn't tell the story without mentioning her name. She says that GOP senators are behaving as if it's their time of the month. Now, that to me goes a little deeper than what it just sounds like here on the surface. Imagine a conservative saying on MSNBC that female Democrat senators were being so emotional, almost hysterical, behaving as if it's their time of the month. Does anybody think that would fly? There is no way a male commentator anywhere could say that about women senators or women witnesses or any of the sort. But here's Jennifer Rubin. And by using this analogy, these Republican senators behaving as if it's their time of the month, is that not acknowledging that there is such a thing as their time of the month? So who is it here that's being cliched and discriminatory and furthermore pointing out one of the big differences between men and women? Because men, except those who are trying, do not have menstrual cycles and therefore do not have their time of the month. That's something for women, and yet here is a woman claiming these male senators are acting it's like it's their time of the month, which must mean that there is such a thing as a female time of the month. So you got a female so-called conservative commentator on MSNBC admitting that there is such a thing as a female time of the month, that men are acting like they're having one, but you're not supposed to say these kinds of things. You know, you let Trump allude in any way to women's time of the month, and all hell is going to break loose. But here Ms. Rubin gets to talk about it as though it's common and everyday, and everybody gets it. Everybody understands it, and everybody knows what it means. It means stay away, leave it alone, don't engage, yes ma'am, 3 bags full, whatever, and go on. She's admitting this by alleging that Republican male senators are acting like it. I mentioned Senator Grassley, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I've never seen him this animated. I've never seen the turtle this animated. This week, the turtle and Grassley have been fit to be tied. Grassley sent a letter late last night. Grassley sent his letter at 4 a.m. today. I guess he sent it to Schumer. He might have sent it to Feinstein. And in this letter, he calls out Mazie Hirono, the senator from Hawaii, and Feinstein by name. And let me read just a portion of Grassley's letter. Indeed, if the evidence supported your client's allegations, you surely would produce it as quickly as you could. But you have repeatedly refused to produce this evidence to the Senate. In doing so, you are preventing the Senate from considering the evidence most crucial to Dr. Ford's allegations. I don't know what other inference we should draw from your refusal, but with the withheld evidence, the withheld evidence does not support Dr. Ford's allegations in quite the way you've claimed. This is the polygraph he's talking about, the notes with the polygraph and the therapist notes. Feinstein and the Democrats have not produced those, even though Ballsy Ford admitted that she took a lie detector. Well, her lawyers did, and that she had seen a therapist. And Grassley's been asking for that evidence, and Feinstein and the Democrats have not produced it. And he's saying you have repeatedly refused to produce this, and in doing so, you're preventing the Senate from considering the evidence most crucial to Dr. Ford's allegations. She passed a lie detector. We want to see it. They won't let him see it. I don't know what other inference we should draw from your refusal, but that the withheld evidence does not support her allegations in quite the way you have claimed. It's a reasonable thing to say. They're out there saying she took a lie detector, that she passed the lie detector, that she told all these details to her therapist. Well, let's see that stuff, and they won't produce it. And Grassley said, you must have something to hide. Then, he writes, I urge you once again, now for the third time in writing, to turn over the therapy notes, the polygraph materials, and communications with the Washington Post that Dr. Ford has relied upon as evidence. In addition to the evidence I requested in my October 2nd letter, in light of recently uncovered information, please turn over records and descriptions of direct or indirect communication between Dr. Ford or her representatives and any of the following. 1, U.S. senators or their staffs, particularly the offices of Feinstein and Hirono. Number 2, the alleged witnesses identified by Dr. Ford, Leland Kaiser, Mark Judge, Patrick P.J. Smythe. And 3, Debbie Ramirez, Julie Swetnick, or the representatives. What Grassley's getting at here, how much consultation have you had with this witness? Senator Feinstein, Senator Hirono, how much time have you spent with this witness discussing her testimony or coaching her or whatever? I mean, he's loaded for bear. This is the kind of collegiality violation, and I shouldn't call it that. This is the kind of decorum that you don't see broken. Senators don't challenge each other. They don't call each other out. It's Senate rules. And Grassley, yesterday during a joint Republican press conference, he kept running back to the microphone to rip into these senators, or the media people, as using bias and so forth. In fact, grab audio soundbite number 5. This was, I don't know if this was at a press conference or not. It may not be exactly what I saw, but it is an example of Grassley with his finger on the pulse here. This is, it's not what I've seen. This is this morning in Washington. Let's listen to it.
What we have learned is the resistance that has existed since the day after the November 2016 election is centered right here on Capitol Hill. They have encouraged mob rule. When you hear things about get in their face, bother people at every restaurant where you can find a cabinet member, these are coming from public service that ought to set an example of civility in American society. And it's been made worse by what has happened to Judge Kavanaugh. I hope we can say no to mob rule by voting to confirm Judge Kavanaugh. I yield the floor.
That was during his Senate floor remarks today in favor of Kavanaugh. He was singling out, by the way, Maxine Waters for promoting this, as he called it, the resistance. But he's calling them out here and chastising them for encouraging mob rule, and that the resistance leadership is actually right here on Capitol Hill. And he's right. The leadership of the resistance is the Democrat Party. The resistance is over the Democrat National Committee and in various Senate offices and offices of congressmen, members of the House and so forth. I've never seen this before. I've never seen these guys on our side call out the Democrats like this. I mean, fit to be tied. Now, I think I have something that might relate to it. I got an email last night from Selena Zito, who has made a name for herself by traveling through all of these blue states during the election campaign season of 2016. She went to all of these places in blue states that were going to vote for Trump, and she learned everything about these people she could. She took them seriously. She went in and met them and talked to them, learned about them. Nobody else in the drive-by media has done anything like this. But she wanted to find out who they are. She lives in Pittsburgh. She had a sense that something was happening out there that the Washington establishment didn't see. And rather than guess, she actually wanted to find out who these people are. She went to a lot of small towns, medium-sized towns, spent serious time there getting to know these people. She has stayed in touch with them ever since the election. She has written a book about it. If the Democrats and the media wanted to know who it is that voted for Donald Trump, all they'd have to do is go get her book. They haven't. They don't read it. They don't care to know who the Trump voters are. They're not interested in appealing to them. They're trying to find out ways to make Trump voters irrelevant or keep them away from the polls. They want to separate Trump and his voters from themselves, but they're not interested in finding out who they are so as to maybe convert them to never-Trumpers or anti-Trumpers. It's an amazing display of arrogance. And by the way, the same can be said of Republican political consultants. They don't care who the Trump voters are. All that matters is that they are laughed at, impugned, and made fun of. So I get a note from her last night, and she is explaining to me what the Kavanaugh hearings have meant and what has happened out there in these areas she has studied. And she made essentially 2 points. One, that something has needed to happen after the 2016 election to keep the coalition that voted for Trump together. Now, a lot of us have assumed that if people voted for Trump in 2016, that they did so for very specific reasons. Among them, Trump is alone in fighting the Washington establishment, that Trump is alone in pushing back against Democrats and the so-called Washington conventional wisdom. And then the assumption is that if people knew that in 2016, that they would not forget that, and that they would realize the need to continue to vote in ways that would continue to support and enable Trump to be successful. And she makes the point that it doesn't work that way, sadly, that after a single election with the known result, something needs to happen besides just another election of party members where Trump is not on the ballot. Something needs to happen to make those people as eager to vote 2 years later as they did in 2016. And that is the Kavanaugh circumstance in her mind. The conservative populist coalition that elected Trump needed something outside of Trump to coalesce around in the midterms. In other words, in her study of things, just continuing to vote for a party, Republicans, to enable Trump to keep going was not enough to get him out there. Don't know why. I would think it would be, but she says it's not. Kavanaugh, however, has provided the catalyst because of how Trump voters, and specifically the conservative populist coalition, perceive the way he has been treated, not just by Democrats, but by the media and by Hollywood. That the Trump conservative populist coalition is tired and worn out the way they and things they believe in are treated by Democrats, the media, and Hollywood. And her point is that the targets of rage had somewhat diminished until Kavanaugh came along and reawakened these people and fired them back up. So she says, this is what I see in a nutshell. What happened to Kavanaugh has served as a reminder and a highlight to the people that voted for Trump why he's successful, that it's all about being strong. It helped remind voters why they supported him. Any other Republican president would have walked away from Kavanaugh by now. Energy would have been lost, but it's not. Energy is high. Now that's Selena Zito and her analysis of the electorate today heading into the 2016 or 2018 midterms. Now, look, she knows what she's talking about. I find it strange that I think the people who voted for Trump are deeply involved in things. Now, maybe there are some exceptions, and you had some people who voted for Trump that just fed up with Republicans and Democrats and found Trump interesting. But for the most part, I am of the opinion that Trump voters did so for very, very, very specific reasons related to Trump's agenda, which he pounded every day, multiple times a day. Donald Trump told everybody what he was going to do. Trade deals, the wall, immigration, rebuild the military, bring back the economy. I would think people who voted for Trump knew that that's what he's going to do, and I would also think that people who voted for Trump would realize that he needs more than 2 years to do it. But it's her insistence. No, that kind of stuff, it evaporates and wanes. You know, people's lives go on, the news changes. But that this Kavanaugh circus has reignited the coalition that elected Trump. And this is to the detriment of the Democrats who don't see this happening. She says the Senate could indeed see a red wave. The House, she's not so sure of. Anyway, I found it interesting analysis, and I wanted to share it with you. She points out that Democrats are spending money in House races out there like we've never seen before, and that Republicans aren't. And that leads me to another point that I need to make, but I don't have time right now. Hang on, we'll be back and continue momentarily. Hi, welcome back. Great to have you, El Rushbo, and the service of humanity at 800-282-2882. In Christine Ballsy Ford's letter to Dianne Feinstein, Leland Kaiser is referred to as a he. Leland Kaiser is one of Ballsy Ford's best buds, the ex-wife of Bob Beckel. In the letter to Feinstein, Leland Kaiser is referred to as a he. This has led analysts to believe that Ford didn't write the letter. Ford would know that Leland Kaiser would presumably know that Leland Kaiser's not a man. If Leland Kaiser is one of Ballsy Ford's best buds, then she would know she's a woman, but she's referred to as a he. So now we're back to Monica McClain, Ballsy's buddy, who helped her write the letter from her home in Rehoboth, Delaware. Guess what? McClain is a former FBI agent, said to have worked as a spokesperson for Preet Bharara. Preet Bharara, former staffer for Senator Schumer. He went on to become U.S. Attorney, Southern District for New York, till Trump fired him. And now he is one of the biggest never-Trumpers out there. McClain's lawyer is David Laufman from the archives of the Washington Post, February 2018. This guy was instrumental in he was the prosecutor in charge of, there's the splitting tone. Hang on, let me complete the dots when I get back. Okay, to review. In her letter to Feinstein, Ballsy Ford refers to her best friend, Leland Kaiser, as a he. Ballsy Ford's best friend is a woman. Ballsy Ford would know this. So if Leland Kaiser is referred to as a he in the letter, it's logical to conclude that Ballsy Ford didn't write the letter. Okay, well then who might have helped her? Well, that would be Monica McClain, at whose home Ballsy Ford was, in Rehoboth, Delaware, at the time the letter was written. McClain, former FBI spokesperson, also worked with Preet Bharara. The reason I'm going through all this is that Ballsy Ford is using people that are tied and linked at the hip and the heart and the brain to Democrat Party activism, from the FBI to the Department of Justice to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, Monica McClain's lawyer happens to be a guy named David Laufman. According to the Washington Post, David Laufman helped oversee the investigation of Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server from which she was exonerated. And Laufman also helped oversee the Russian interference in the Trump election or campaign in 2016. So how is it that Ballsy Ford ends up in the home of a woman who's tied to the DOJ and the FBI and characters who were involved in the Hillary Clinton email investigation and the Trump-Russia collusion investigation? How does that happen? If you're just a woman out in Santa Cruz or Palo Alto and you see that Brett Kavanaugh has been nominated to be in the Supreme Court and you don't think he should be because you think one time he attacked you, you send a letter to Dianne Feinstein, and the next thing you know, well, no, that's not. You send Feinstein a letter after traveling to Delaware to meet with your buddy Monica McClain, who probably writes the letter for you because of the inclusion of Leland Kaiser as a he, not a woman, which she is. So you're a beach babe, a psychology professor, whatever, from California, and you end up writing a letter after traveling to Delaware after saying you're afraid of flying. And then the lawyers don't tell you that the committee is willing to fly out to California to interview you. What? I didn't know. I didn't know you were. I would have welcomed you into my home if you had come. I don't even think I buy this. She didn't want them to come out there because she was going to go to Delaware to meet with McClain. She didn't want the committee seeing who she was meeting with. This whole thing required her to come to Washington. For this to pull off, she had to come to Washington. So we look at Hillary Clinton's email server investigation and the Trump-Russia collusion, and what do we find? A woman who happens to be helping Ballsy Ford defeat Brett Kavanaugh and his nomination to the Supreme Court. With every Democrat saying within minutes of Kavanaugh being nominated, they're going to oppose him. With every Democrat saying they believe her, even though she doesn't have any evidence. And Time Magazine just put her on the cover. New cover, Time Magazine. Let's see, was deification of Ballsy Ford. Last day, she's seen taking the oath. It's pathetic. This whole thing has been a setup, is my point. And the people that set it up are the same people that have been running the silent coup against Donald Trump. And every Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee knows everything I just told you. But rather than it be a problem, they're telling themselves how well organized they are and how brilliantly they've pulled this off. In their world, they've made the American people really believe that this woman was minding her own business one day when she was 15, and this nominee to the court came and brutalized her. And she's just a woman, the teacher likes children, and it's terrifying to be here. They're thinking, what a masterful plan we pulled off. We got everybody in this country thinking, A, that something that didn't happen did, that we have nothing to do with it, when this whole thing is an orchestrated screenplay. And that's why DiFi won't turn over any of the the therapy and the polygraph information for the Judiciary Committee to look at. And the Republicans know this, too. But the power of the Democrats is, look at the Republicans that are quivering and a little afraid to go ahead and confirm Kavanaugh. This Democrat machine is a scary, scary bunch. Democrat machine includes the media and all of these psychologically deranged protesters that are out there threatening and, in some cases, committing violence. We got one of them who has just been arrested for doxing a bunch of Republican senators. That's tech lingo for releasing their documents. Doxing means to discover all of their private information, name, address, phone number, bank accounts, all that stuff, and making it public. And a guy who interned for Sheila Jackson Lee and I think worked for Feinstein is the guy that did it. And don't forget, Feinstein had a Chinese spy on her staff for a year, driving her around. I mean, it might be legitimate to ask, was the Chinese spy actually a spy? Let me put it different. Did Feinstein know that he was a spy, and that's why he was there? I don't know. I'm just telling you, we have been, again, subjected to a gigantic real-life Netflix drama. This thing has been scripted. It has been choreographed. It has been rehearsed. It had an objective that failed, and this is the reason we're learning all this. The objective was for Kavanaugh to withdraw. They thought that they would get Kavanaugh so intimidated and making him think that all of this was so futile that in order to spare himself this assault, he would withdraw his nomination. Barring that Trump would withdraw it so as to spare him the embarrassment. They miscalculated both ways. So now we've had a procedural vote. We're going to have a real Senate confirmation vote tomorrow on a totally manufactured, written, and I'm sure it's been tested, script, with the power players being same people, the FBI, Department of Justice, deep state, who helped run the silent coup against the Trumpster. Back to the phones we go. This is Joe in Cincinnati. It's great to have you, sir. Hi.
Rush, it's an honor to speak with you. You're a patriot, and I salute you.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that more than you know.
I'll be quick. I'm a military service member of 16 years, and after witnessing this Kavanaugh circus, my friends and family say, hey, you should run for political office. And after this, there's no way, because being deployed several times, the standard for the left would be to accuse me of war crimes. Now, Rush, being a military service member, I'm not going to present a problem without a solution, and here's the solution. After Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh gets settled in, he should file slander charges against Swetnick, Ramirez, Ford, and any other activist liberal slanderer, or the new standard will be guilty until proven innocent. And I can tell you this right now, my military brothers and sisters have not fought and died for that sort of right for this country.
Damn right. That is exactly right. I don't think Kavanaugh would be able to sue them. I don't think that once you start getting into government officials and so forth, they're kind of, you got the First Amendment, which protects political speech, and you can produce an ad that says pretty much anything, and it can lie about whoever and whatever you want, and there's not much you can do about it. The remedy for that is more speech, which in this case equals more money to counter the lies that are being told. It's a frustrating thing. It drives a lot of average people out of politics, even to the point of not voting or not caring, because they think, why should I? I don't know who's telling me the truth. Probably nobody is. I can't keep track of it anyway. It's not worth the angst that it causes. It causes a lot of people to tune out. But this is causing people to tune in. I wish there were a remedy for this, because it is all of what you said, slanderous and libelous. But there isn't any recourse. You know, it's the old saw, success is the sweetest revenge. But I'm just going to tell you this, folks. I think you ought to be prepared. Let's do a little hypothetical. Let's presume that it's tomorrow at 5:30, the vote's over and Kavanaugh is confirmed. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that the Democrats in the Senate, the Democrats in the media, meaning the media, do you think all of these deranged, psychologically out of whack protesters are just going to say, well, we gave it our best shot, we'll wait till they nominate somebody else and try to destroy them? Or do you think that they will continue in their effort to wipe Kavanaugh out and destroy him? Believe me, choose door number 2, especially if these clowns win the House. They are going to immediately mount 2 things: impeachment of Trump and therefore impeachment of Kavanaugh. Because if Trump shouldn't have been there in the first place, then his nominee shouldn't be either. This is not going away. There's only one way that it might. There's only one way that it might. And it's a huge long shot, and it is this. And by all rights, by all that is just, by all with a world in which God is present, the Democrats ought to have their rear ends handed to them in these upcoming elections. By all that's just, by all that's decent, they ought to be wiped out. This ought to be the biggest midterm landslide defeat any party has ever experienced. This party deserves to be punished at the ballot box like no party ever has. And in a decent and just world, that's exactly what would happen. And if right now the Democrats are expecting this gigantic blue wave where they're going to win the House, and Pelosi's already talking about being Speaker. They're even dabbling about the possibility of winning the Senate, and then they're telling everybody what they're going to do. And I'm telling you, better, if they do win both those, you better get as much active enjoyment out of our current economy and your current liberty and freedom as you can, because they are going to start immediately erasing it by raising taxes, raising corporate taxes, committing this country to all kinds of worldwide climate change garbage that is going to redirect American resources. They're going to reenact the Obama agenda, and they're going to put it on steroids, and that'll mean wiping out all of these trade deals, all of these new jobs. The Democrats want government to be front and center in everybody's life. They want every voter to think whatever they have came from government, came from Democrats. It didn't come from you. It doesn't come from your hard work. It doesn't come from your self-reliance. It comes from them. And you're going to learn it and love it and live it, by golly, by gosh, or else you're going to be punished. This party deserves to be so soundly defeated in November that we haven't seen anything like it. If they lose, if they do not win the House, if they do not win the Senate, if they lose seats in both, then that might make some of the leaders of the party rethink their current strategy. But if they win based on this, it's going to get even worse than it's been. This politics of personal destruction is going to be amplified, and every Republican is going to be targeted, and every political media opponent is going to be targeted. If they win with this kind of behavior and treatment of people and turning American principles upside down like innocent till proven guilty, if they win doing this, New Zealand is the coast open. Quick timeout. Back with more in a moment. Greetings and welcome back. Rush Limbaugh. I didn't get your link yet. Oh, there it is. Snerdley just found a link that Lisa Murkowski has not made final decision yet. Not what we were told earlier today. We were told her decision was final and that she had said Kavanaugh's just not the man at this time for the Supreme Court. That's a quote. Well, I'm holding here in my formerly nicotine state. By the way, coming up on the Ditto Cam in the next segment, the monologue next hour, a couple of pictures of Dianne Feinstein with Murkowski up against a wall. Feinstein's got her hand above her head up against the wall, and it looks like Feinstein. It looks like the alien and what's her name, Courtney, what was the actress in the Sigourney Weaver. It looks like Feinstein's the alien, and Murkowski is Sigourney Weaver. And that big weapon's about to pop out of Feinstein's mouth and obliterate Murkowski. We'll have that picture. In fact, nope, we'll save it because I don't have much time here. I want to read to you a couple of tweets from Kimberly Strassel at the Wall Street Journal. Number one, just to be clear on what Lisa Murkowski voted for today. Lisa Murkowski voted to legitimize and sign off on the most despicable tactics ever in a nomination. She voted to stand with Dianne Feinstein, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris to leave Judge Kavanaugh subject to claims of perjury and impeachment. She signed off on the abandonment of due process and the presumption of innocence to potentially leave the Supreme Court at a 4-4 deadlock, putting the loony Ninth Circuit in control of everything that matters to Alaska. Development, property rights, gun rights, environmental rules. Quite a statement. Boy, that is so true. 4-4 tie. The Ninth Circuit contains Murkowski's state. She's supposedly a Republican. But this nails it. She voted to legitimize and sign off on the most despicable tactics ever. Feinstein, Kamala Harris. I'm telling you, this party, the Democrat Party, in a just world, would suffer the biggest midterm electoral defeat in this nation's history. They deserve for this country to rise up against them at the ballot box because of everything they've done. In the past 2 years alone, just to Trump and the people that voted for him, specifically Kavanaugh. Got to take a break. We'll be... A little bumper music here from the Traveling Wilburys. Tom Petty, Roy Orbison. We got to take a break here, folks, at the top of the hour. Fastest 3 hours in media. Still beaucoup things to get into. Back at you right after this. CNN is not happy. CNN a little on edge out there. CNN just reported that the Turtle had lunch with Susan Collins. And that the Turtle came out of having lunch with Susan Collins and said that he's optimistic. And the CNN reporter said McConnell doesn't do that much. He rarely speaks to the press in circumstances like this, just kibitzing with them in public rather than a formal setting. And I think for the Turtle to say that he's, he wouldn't put himself out there like that if he thought Collins was going to turn around and do a 180 on him. Yes, sir, Bob. Here we are making broadcast history with each and every broadcast. Rush Limbaugh, the one and only EIB network, the one and only Limbaugh Institute. And as always, talent on loan from God. Everything here with half my brain tied behind my back, and it all equals having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. By the way, it wasn't long ago that, in fact, it was an hour ago, I made mention of the so-called the faux conservative Washington Post blogger by the name of Jennifer Rubin had said on MSNBC that these Republican senators are acting like it's their time of the month. Which I think she's acknowledging that there is such a phenomenon that occurs to women. And she, a woman, acknowledging that during this particular phenomenon, well, she insulted these guys by saying that they were acting like it's their time of the month, thereby acknowledging that there is such a thing. Men can't do this. And I made some flippant offhand comment that men don't get periods yet. Modern science can create them for transgenders, whoever. Well, lo and behold, somebody sent me just a random set of links found on Google. Daily Beast, men may not bleed, but here's why they have periods. Healthline, do cis men, CIS, that means men born as men. Those are abnormal men now, by the way. If you're born as a guy, you're cisgender male, and that means you're abnormal, you're weird. Do cis men have periods? The truth about irritable male syndrome. And from Cosmopolitan, do guys have periods? Irritable male syndrome. So there you have it. The left is indeed attempting to establish the premise that men have periods. Always have had. May not bleed. But everything else is... Well, what is that everything else, then? I want to reread to you Kimberly Strassel's tweets about Lisa Murkowski. Lisa Murkowski, by the way, this is another one that CNN is obviously nervous about, because earlier today, Lisa Murkowski was a definite no on Kavanaugh. And in announcing her definite no, she said he's just not the right man for the Supreme Court right now. Just not the right man. So Kimberly Strassel, now she's changing. She's not changing. She is saying that her mind's not made up. The link is a Reuters story. And it says, essentially, Murkowski has not made a final decision. You could have fooled me. It sounded awfully final to me this morning when I read it. Brett Kavanaugh is not the right man for the Senate right now. Now she's saying it's not her final decision. Something is happening in that regard. Here, Kimberly Strassel's tweets again. The first one here, well, they're both right on the money. Just to be clear, yeah, I'm trying to amplify these. I'm trying to make sure more people hear about these tweets than will see them. Yeah, absolutely. It's worth it. Kimberly Strassel, Wall Street Journal columnist, editorial page editor and writer. Just to be clear on what Lisa Murkowski voted for today. Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, voted to legitimize and sign off on the most despicable tactics ever in a Supreme Court nomination. Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, voted today to stand with Dianne Feinstein, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, to leave Judge Brett Kavanaugh subject to claims of perjury and impeachment, which they're going to pursue, by the way. Oh, yeah, what did I... It's another interesting thing. Hang on, another new development here, but hang on just a second. Here's a second tweet from Kimberly Strassel. Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, today voted to abandon due process and the presumption of innocence. She voted to potentially leave the Supreme Court at a 4-4 deadlock, which puts the loony Ninth Circus Court of Appeals in control of everything that matters to Alaska, her state. Development, property rights, gun rights, environmental rules. Lisa Murkowski has made quite the statement. These are two devastating tweets, and they are right on the money. Legitimizing and signing off on the most despicable tactics ever, standing with Feinstein, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, who is in a class by herself, in mendacity and a number of other things. Just not much redeeming there. But more importantly, Lisa Murkowski has voted to leave Kavanaugh subject to claims of perjury and impeachment. And then leaving the court, if he's not confirmed, the court stays a 4-4 deadlock. The reason that matters is that if the court votes 4-4 on any case, then the decision prior to the court hearing it is affirmed. Nothing changes. And that means that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals would be the highest-ranking court that could make decisions regarding fundamental aspects of life in Alaska, her own home state. It would be idiotic to put the Ninth, if you're a Republican, and by the way, she does believe in property rights and development and gun rights, and to put the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and a bunch of leftists in charge of those issues in her state, this is shooting herself in the foot, all to supposedly be in unison with the Me Too movement. So I mentioned we had a couple of photos of Dianne Feinstein. Looks like she has cornered Murkowski. I don't know when the photos were taken. Presumably they are recent. We could find out. We just have checked Feinstein's wardrobe on a particular day of hearings. But go ahead and, Scott, put it in the switcher. For those of you watching the Ditto Cam, there is a picture, and stand by because we have a close-up. There is a picture of Dianne Feinstein literally with Lisa Murkowski up against a wall in a hallway of a Senate office building. And they are chatting with each other, and Murkowski has a pained look on her face. Feinstein looks like she is, well, the picture speaks for itself. With that hand up, she got her cornered. She's got her hand up on the wall, framing Murkowski. It's an aggressive move. It allows Feinstein to lean into Murkowski. Now, let's switch to the close-up of that photo. For those of you watching on the Ditto Cam, do you see the pained expression on the face of Murkowski and the expression of intent, seriousness, and you better be listening to me on the face of Di-Fi? Now, we'll have these photos up at rushlimbaugh.com, too. I'm not trying to leave anybody out, but I wanted you watching on the Ditto Cam to be able to see these. That close-up is the same shot, just a close-up of the previously televised photo. Is that right? Well, Dawn here, looking here, says, boy, Feinstein sure does look like a bully. And Murkowski looks very uncomfortable, does she not? I mean, it's a really pained look on her face. And it looks like Feinstein is running this relationship. It looks like Feinstein is giving her what for. Don't know when the picture was taken, and I will acknowledge that our interpretation could be wrong. We have no context here other than the hearings and the way this has been going. Well, I wouldn't call that romantic. I take that back. One of these is from California, and romance there has all kinds of shapes and forms. So you could be right. It could be a romantic interlude. What's the old saw? It's not for us to criticize who loves who and why. So, it could be a lover's spat, lover's quarrel. We don't know. But I've got to get these photos up to Coco, unless Coco can find them. I'm sure Coco can find them himself. He may beat me to the punch. Now, the other breaking story, that's not a breaking story, but in the Senate campaign in Tennessee, this is kind of interesting. This is the Marsha Washburn story, or race. Let's see. Marsha Blackburn story. Her opponent is Phil Bredesen. And Bredesen is saying that he's disgusted and that if he was in the Senate, he would vote to confirm Kavanaugh. Now, he's a Democrat running against the incumbent, Marsha Blackburn. What is a Democrat doing saying that he would vote to confirm Kavanaugh? This is in the middle of a campaign here. Now, I know it's Tennessee and it's deep red. I know Bredesen wants to win and so forth, but he expects this to pay off for him in his campaign. This is obviously a reaction and reflection of public sentiment for Kavanaugh in the state of Tennessee. Phil Bredesen is, by the way, starting to lose ground to Marsha Blackburn in polling data. This is for Corker's seat. And Corker, by the way, has also tweeted today that it is outrageous to punish somebody who hasn't done anything to anybody for all of these supposed actions other men have engaged in against women. But his point is, we have no evidence Kavanaugh did anything to anybody. We're going to deny him a seat on the court because of that. And then the next day we're going to deny because of the judicial temperament. And we're going to deny because he committed perjury. And then we're going to deny him because he threw ice in a bar back when he was in college. But Corker made it plain that he doesn't think Kavanaugh should be held accountable for things he hasn't. That's kind of like the affirmative action argument. What in the world are we going to be punishing people here for racial discrimination when they haven't engaged in it? Oh, we got to make up for lost time, the left says. Phil Bredesen, who is starting to lose grounds, fall behind Blackburn in the race to replace Corker. I mean, this is a really strange time to go public against his own party. He's the former governor of Tennessee. And he issued a statement rebuking Democrats for hijacking the confirmation process as a license to indulge in partisanship. If he was on the Senate floor right now, Bredesen announced that Kavanaugh would be planning his swearing-in ceremony. Bredesen said he was disgusted by the treatment Dr. Ford got. He's determined to help bring about fairer and more respectful treatment of these issues. Now, see, he wants both sides of this. So he goes out, he rips into the treatment of Dr. Ford, but also says that Kavanaugh would be confirmed. This is, I wouldn't call it blockbuster, but it's one of these things that you look at, you wonder why now. This is on the verge of the vote, a Democrat candidate for the Corker seat beginning to lose ground. It just tells you where, at least in Tennessee, where public opinion on this resides. Okay, throw that picture back up on the Ditto Cam. That'll work, the close-up. That picture of the alien versus Sigourney Weaver. It's actually Dianne Feinstein and Elisa Murkowski. This picture was taken the day before Ballsy Ford testified. It was taken the day before, so it was a week ago Wednesday, this picture was taken, the day before Ballsy Ford and Kavanaugh testified. So that kind of helps put the picture in a little more context, does it not? And now back to the phones to Houston. This is Scott. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello. We lost him, so Scott in Houston is gone. Houston's one of my favorite towns. Mark in Knoxville, Tennessee. You're next. Greetings, sir. Hi.
Good afternoon, Rush. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Anytime, sir. Anytime.
Long-time listener and first-time caller. It's an honor to speak with you today. Would like to discuss Ms. Murkowski briefly with you. I believe it was during the Neil Gorsuch hearings that Murkowski went to the administration, i.e. Trump, and bargained her vote for exploration rights in Anwar. And I've worked up in Prudhoe. I know what that's like, the revenue that field brings to the state.
This is correct. You're right. I remember that. You're exactly right. And I think I know where you're going. This is a hell of a payback.
Yeah, well, if it's met with some resistance, is this her way to get the gotcha back on Trump? Or why hasn't that card been played back to her to say, with the stroke of the same pen, it can all go away? Just something that makes you go, The other question...
Wait a minute. The stroke of the same pen, what could go away?
Well, if the stroke of the pen can put Anwar in play for the state...
Oh, you mean Trump could cancel Anwar as payback to Murkowski for going against Kavanaugh?
Yes, sir.
He wouldn't do it.
No. Okay.
Too many people be hurt. Too many people be hurt by it.
You're right, but that means a lot for her and her state. So, I don't know. The other quick question that I have for you is, you mentioned earlier that if the Democrats regain the House, that almost immediately impeachment hearings would start against Trump, that it would most likely include Kavanaugh. What does that do for Neil Gorsuch? Does that put him back in play again?
Back in play, you mean to be impeached as well?
Absolutely, sir.
No, that wouldn't bite that much off. If you get rid of Kavanaugh, get him back off the bench, and stall Trump's next nominees, win the White House in 2020. No, in fact, I think my guess is that they would go after Kavanaugh first in terms of impeachment proceedings. Be fresh in everybody's minds. Go after him on perjury and sexual harassment. Serious things for which a conviction could ruin his life as well. And then after they get Kavanaugh, then they go after Trump as the guy knowingly who nominated Kavanaugh. Then they add all the other things on Trump. Just my guess that they would go after Kavanaugh first. But Gorsuch they would leave alone. That Gorsuch didn't shift the balance of the court. Kavanaugh does. And we are back. By the way, folks, I need to tell you, we're running a little special, a little store promo at the EIB store at rushlimbaugh.com. You know what else I need to do? I need to thank everybody. We are experiencing tremendous growth in subscriber members at rushlimbaugh.com. And it's fascinating. A majority are coming from via sign-up from the rushlimbaugh.com app. Now, Rush 24/7 has been a website, an ongoing concern for many, many moons. We just recently, within the past year, upgraded the app, and it's now state-of-the-art. And the thing about the app is that it offers a plethora of free content. You can get the app on the App Store on your iPhone or iPad or at the Google Play Store if you use Android. And you have access to transcripts of everything said, and you can share and forward those transcripts. There's access to not the DittoCam and audio streaming, but lots of video, historical videos, TV show video, and so forth. It's encyclopedic. And we make it a point to offer a hell of a lot on the free side. And then if you want to be able to stream live DittoCam or archived DittoCam or live streaming audio or archived, you can do that as a member. And there's even more that you have access to. And people are signing up in droves, and we're not even pushing it. It's just it is rewarding as it can be. Every week we're setting a new record for subscribers and members at our website. And we're in our 31st year here. You would think that the record would have been when it was new and hot and exciting. And it's building like crazy, and it's really great. And we are so appreciative. And as I say, many of the new signups, and there are deals to be had. You can get a combo with the Limbaugh letter tossed in as well. Many are coming from the app, and the app is something we're also very proud of. It makes accessing everything on the site easy, including streaming of the audio of the program each day, podcasts, and we're even working now to simplify the download and access to podcasts to make that just as intuitively simple as we can. We're constantly working on upgrading it. And as all part of this, once this stuff started growing with new members, they would go to the EIB store and say, the stuff in there sucks. And it did, because it just wasn't a focus. It was apparel that was not often updated. So we have totally remade the store. We've totally remade the apparel and the items in the store. We've upgraded it to be the highest quality stuff at the price points that we wanted to sell things at that we could find. And we have hit the mark on so many things. T-shirts are going crazy because they're not cotton. They're a different kind of material that people love. The new era caps are the highest quality cap you're going to buy for the price. And it's not exorbitant either. And so occasionally we run, little come-ons, little sales at the EIB store. And we have one running right now. It's a little special just for the weekend, and it's buy one item and get another one at half off. And it depends on the item that you want that determines what is half off after that. You just have to shop around and see. And some of you lucky shoppers will even receive items signed by me. Oh, yes. I sign a whole bunch of these things, and we just randomly fulfill. And if people, don't like it, then we replace it. But that doesn't happen. People are thrilled to get signed stuff. So I just wanted to mention this. It's buy one item and get another at 50% off. There's a promo code for this called Rush Deal at checkout, and it's at the EIB store. You can access it easily on the app or at the website on your computer, rushlimbaugh.com. And so I wanted to make sure to mention that. Back to the phones now. This is Patrick in Philadelphia. Great to have you, sir. Hello.
Thank you, Rush, so much. Super huge, mega, big dittos, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Long-time listener, probably 1993 was when I started listening daily, and I was actually lucky enough to see you in Philadelphia at the Kimmel Center when you auctioned off your Harry Reid letter.
Oh, that was awesome! That was on the campus of the university. What a great hall that was! That was one of the nicest venues I've ever had a public appearance in.
And it was one of our funnest nights ever. My brother Joe got the tickets. I was lucky enough to tag along with a few other family members, and it was quite memorable. You told the best Hillary Clinton joke I've ever heard in my life.
Was that the elevator joke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Russ, I promise I'd get right to the point.
Now you got me in a situation. Everybody wants to hear the joke. Since you brought it up. I'll think about it. Go ahead. I don't want it to encroach on your time. What was it that you called about?
The left is fully aware, Russ, that there's things behind the scenes that the public will never know. We call it the deep state, but that's their standard operating procedure. So you were talking earlier about, things we wouldn't know or the American citizens wouldn't know behind the scenes that had the Democrats stone-faced yesterday and why they know that Kavanaugh is going to be confirmed. Our only hope, and my family's only hope, is that their hatred of Kavanaugh means he really is that good.
Oh, he is, in that sense. There's a rap on Kavanaugh, too. You know what the rap on Kavanaugh is? that he's a Bush establishment guy. I mean, he is the staff secretary for George W. Bush in the first term. The rap on him is that he's not a deep stater, but that he is a swamp dweller. And there are some people who think that there could have been a more conservative choice, Amy Coney Barrett. But he is good. Don't believe any of that. This guy threatens the Democrats as much as if Antonin Scalia